What if everything you believed about Australia's legendary Holden 308 V8 was part of a calculated illusion? An engine hailed as a national icon, yet engineered under restrictions imposed from across the Pacific. For decades, it rivaled America's mighty Chevy 350. But behind the curtain, secrets were buried. Secrets GM executives fought hard to keep silent. Two V8 giants born of the same bloodline, one set loose, the other shackled. Tonight, we uncover the hidden memos, shadow dyno tests, and suppressed evidence that reveal why Holden's Lion was caged, while Chevrolet's Stallion ran free. Welcome to the Cold War of horsepower you were never supposed to know. Corporate blood, divided destinies. Forged in the crucible of 1960s innovation, these two V8s came from one corporate family, but were destined for wildly different fates. The Holden 308 debuted in 1969, a uniquely Australian 5-liter weapon built for outback endurance. But 2 years earlier, its American cousin, the Chevy 350, was already dominating Detroit's streets. When you dig deep into GM's internal archives, files they've long denied exist, a pattern emerges. Holden's engineers were kept isolated, denied full access to Chevy's data. Why? According to 3 sources within GM's powertrain division, it wasn't regional optimization, it was strategic control. Former Holden engineer James Mitchell breaks silence. "We weren't told to innovate, we were told to differentiate," he says. The separation wasn't technical, it was corporate. The mysterious design choices. Look closely, and the proof is obvious. The 308's smaller bore and stroke stood in contrast to the 350's larger displacement, despite Australia's demanding conditions that begged for more capacity. Internal testing proved the Holden engine could have absorbed the extra size with minimal tweaks. But then came Detroit's revisions. Dyno sheets from 1968, obtained exclusively, show the original 308 matching the Chevy 350 in output. Until, that is, someone in the US ordered changes. This wasn't a case of engineers failing, it was of limits being enforced. A silent campaign to kneecap Australian engineering, all to protect a fragile internal hierarchy. The dyno truth never told. Officially, the Holden 308 made 240 horsepower from its 5-liter, while the 350 pumped out 295 from 5.7 liters. But factory numbers lied. Secret dyno results from Holden's Fisherman's Bend facility revealed prototype 308s pushing 310 horsepower. These numbers vanished. A retired GM exec speaking anonymously confirmed the existence of a directive: no Holden V8 could exceed its Chevrolet counterpart, no matter the tech. Both blocks were cast iron. But the 308 had stronger 4-bolt mains in many trims, despite brochures saying otherwise. And its cylinder heads flowed so well, even Chevy's engineers took quiet notes. Hidden advantages they never marketed. The 308 also had an unspoken strength: weight. It was 30 pounds lighter than the 350 while maintaining similar rigidity. That translated to real-world advantages in power-to-weight performance, benefits mysteriously missing from GM marketing. The 308's bore and stroke, 101.6 mm by 77.8 mm, yielded a near-perfect 1.31:1 ratio. The 350's 102.4 mm by 82.6 mm, less efficient. From an engineering lens, the Aussie motor was built for high RPM and minimal stress. The secret oil flow mods. Beneath the skin, the 308 hid another advantage: its oiling system. Outwardly conventional, inside it was anything but. Modified galleries boosted oil flow to the camshaft bearings by 15% at high RPMs, perfect for the grueling demands of Bathurst and beyond. But the crown jewel? The heads. Holden engineers used a 12 degrees valve angle, compared to Chevy's 23 degrees, better quench, better flame travel. Factory numbers understated flow by 12%. Real numbers showed 265 CFM at 0.050 inches lift. But this wasn't published. GM wanted the 350 on top. The Phase 4 that never came. And then there's the Phase 4, a mythical 308 variant, never released. With forged HBAM rods, it could withstand 22% more force than a standard 350. Capable of revving past 7,200 RPM territory reserved for Corvette-level hardware. Even with identical camshaft grinds, the 308 pulled a flatter, wider torque curve. It breathed more efficiently, despite smaller size. Once freed from artificial limits, it showed what Holden had really built: a hidden weapon, a performance statement smothered under Detroit's control. Project Wombat, erased from history. In 1973, Holden engineers secretly built a high-output version codenamed Project Wombat. Using reworked heads and hot cam profiles, it hit 340 horsepower. In back-to-back tests, it crushed the Chevy 350 at a remote track near Melbourne. Within 2 days, the project was dead. Orders came from the US, all documentation destroyed. 3 sources confirmed that senior GM brass flew to Australia immediately after. The message: Holden's V8 program would proceed, but only within strict limits. The sabotage was financial. Why sabotage their own engine? Follow the money. GM's internal projections revealed fear that a superior Australian V8 could kill off American engine exports. It wasn't about performance. It was about protecting Chevrolet's place in GM's hierarchy. Worse still, the 308 was crippled on purpose. Former designer Robert Thompson admits, "We were told to restrict the intake ports to make sure backyard tuners couldn't unlock too much power." A leaked 1975 memo ranked regions by performance priority. Australia was placed deliberately below the US regardless of engineering potential. The UN published durability tests. On the track, the truth screamed through the tarmac. While GM celebrated Chevy dominance at Daytona, Bathurst told another story. In 1978, Peter Brock's team made a startling discovery. Their detuned 308s, limited to 95% output, were lasting 22 hours longer than 350s before rebuilds. Former HRT engineer David Morrison recalls, "We were told never to release the data. If we did, our parts supply would vanish." The 308's longer life came from its square geometry and oil circulation, traits deliberately glossed over in official documentation. A philosophy, not a copy. Privately, Australian teams tested uncorked 308s against maxed-out 350s. The difference? Often less than 1%. Then came a radical test. Dick Johnson's crew dropped 308 internals into a 350 block. It exploded in 3 hours. Why? Holden's parts were too aggressive for the 350 structure. It wasn't just performance, it was philosophy. The 308 wasn't inferior, it was restrained. And now in the collector market, that truth is finally gaining value. The Friday engines. Today, verified Holden 308 red motor blocks fetch up to $12,000, double the Chevy 350. The most coveted? The so-called Friday afternoon engines. Built during end-of-week shifts when QC was loose, engineers allegedly bypassed restrictions. These unicorn blocks featured thicker cylinder walls and unrestricted intakes. Sydney engine builder Marcus Fletcher says, "We have a 50-name waitlist for verified Friday blocks. They're the holy grail, what Holden should have built." The Bors papers and the black market. And then there are the Bathurst papers, technical manuals supposedly destroyed by GM. They outline the real tuning secrets of the 308. Underground copies are now bought and sold in a thriving black market. When dyno tested without factory limits, the 308 consistently rivals, sometimes beats, the 350 in power-to-weight ratio, just as Holden's engineers intended. These motors weren't just engines, they were acts of defiance, mechanical resistance smuggled out of a corporate cage. An engine that outlived its master. What does it mean when the engine outlasts the empire that muzzled it? Both the 308 and 350 are gone, but their story lives on. In 1999, GM began work on the Gen 3 V8. Internal files reveal a surprising instruction. Study the Holden 308's oil flow and port geometry. The LS1 that followed borrowed more from the 308 than GM ever admitted. Lightweight blocks, efficient ports, a rugged lower end. Holden's rejected brilliance became GM's next-gen foundation. Retired engineer Thomas Wright confirms, "They built their future on what they once suppressed, a truth too big to hide." Today, restored 308s are more than collector cars. They're proof that no matter how deep you bury the truth, it rises. These V8s didn't lose to the 350. They were held back. But in workshops across Australia, the chains are finally off. This wasn't a rivalry based on cubes or horsepower. It was a war fought in garages, with wrenches against a corporate machine. The Holden 308 is no longer a myth. It's a vindication. But this story isn't over. What other icons have been buried under boardroom decisions? What other performance legends have hidden secrets the public was never meant to find? If you've made it this far, you're not just a viewer, you're an insider. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Was the Holden 308 unfairly pushed aside, or was the Chevy small block just too dominant to ignore? Like the video, subscribe for more untold automotive truths, and hit that bell so you never miss a story the history books forgot. This is Revved Up Muscle, where engines talk and legends live on.